Most people believe stillness should feel peaceful, but for many, stillness feels uncomfortable, even threatening. This reaction is not random. It is conditioned. You were trained to move, to respond, to adjust, to engage. From early on, you learned that attention must always go somewhere. Silence felt empty. Waiting felt wrong. Pausing felt unsafe. So, you learned to fill every gap with thought, emotion, reaction. Over time, this became automatic. The nervous system adapted to constant stimulation. And now, when stimulation stops, the system panics. This is why stillness does not feel natural at first. Not because something is wrong, but because reaction has become your baseline. The law of being begins by recognizing this pattern. You are not restless because you lack peace. You are restless because you are unused to not reacting. Reaction became familiar. Remaining feels foreign. But familiarity is not truth. The body does not seek chaos, it seeks regulation. However, regulation can feel strange to a system raised on tension. This is why, when you stop reacting, the mind searches for problems. It scans for threats. It invents concerns. It pulls attention outward. Not because danger exists, but because reaction is its comfort zone. Most people misinterpret this phase. They believe stillness is not working. They believe presence is ineffective. So they abandon it. They return to effort, to thinking, to controlling. And the cycle continues. The law of being asks for something different. Not effort, but tolerance. Tolerance for silence. Tolerance for not knowing. Tolerance for not intervening. This tolerance is not passive. It is strength without movement. When you allow stillness without escaping it, something subtle happens. The nervous system begins to downshift. Breath deepens, muscles soften, thoughts slow without being forced. This is regulation reasserting itself. But it takes time. Reaction is fast, regulation is gradual. This is why trying to achieve stillness never works. Achievement is reaction. Remaining is allowance. Yes, you are not meant to create stillness. You are meant to stop interrupting it. Stillness already exists beneath reaction. Reaction is the noise covering the signal. When the noise fades, the signal becomes clear. Yeah. This clarity is not emotional. It is neutral. And neutrality is deeply stabilizing. From neutrality, you see more clearly. You respond more accurately. You act less, but accomplish more. This is not productivity. It is precision. Precision requires presence. Presence requires non-reaction. This is the chain. Most exhaustion comes from constant internal correction. You adjust yourself to match circumstances. You edit your feelings. You manage impressions. You anticipate outcomes. All of this consumes energy. Remaining ends this drain. When you stop adjusting internally, energy returns. Not as excitement, not as motivation, but as steadiness. Steadiness is underestimated. It does not feel dramatic. It does not announce itself. But it outlasts everything else. The law of being is built on steadiness, not highs, not breakthroughs, but consistency of presence. At first, this may feel boring. The mind associates boredom with lack of value, but boredom is simply the absence of stimulation. And stimulation is not the same as meaning. Meaning emerges from coherence. Coherence emerges when reaction quiets. If you stay here long enough, without forcing progress, without seeking confirmation, without escaping silence, you will notice a shift, not externally, internally. The urge to react weakens, the need to interfere fades. You feel less pulled. This is the first sign that the law of being is taking effect. You are no longer fighting yourself. And when internal conflict ends, life softens. Not immediately, not magically, but reliably. This is where real change begins, not in action, but in absence of reaction. In the next part, you will understand why effort often delays alignment, why trying harder creates resistance, and why letting go is not loss, but recalibration. Remain here. Do not rush. Do not evaluate. Just stay. Most people were taught that effort creates results. Try harder. Push more. Do not stop. This belief is deeply embedded, and on the surface, it appears logical. And effort produces movement. Movement looks like progress. But movement is not alignment. The law of being reveals a different dynamic. One effort, when driven by tension, creates resistance. Not always outside, but internally. When effort is tense, the nervous system constricts. Breath shortens, attention narrows, perception becomes selective. You see less. And when perception narrows, options disappear. This is why trying harder often makes things feel heavier. Not because effort is wrong, but because effort is compensating for misalignment. Effort becomes a substitute for presence. You push because you are not settled. You chase because you do not trust position. You fix because you fear stillness. These movements feel productive, but they fragment energy. Fragmentation feels like urgency. Urgency is a signal that something is off-center. Centered action never feels urgent. It feels clear. Clarity does not rush. This is difficult to accept in a culture that rewards strain. But strain is not strength. Strain is misdirected force. The law of being does not eliminate effort. It removes unnecessary effort. The effort that remains is minimal, precise, and timely. This kind of effort does not exhaust. It restores. But first, the system must downshift. Most people try to apply effort before stability returns. This is like accelerating while the engine is misfiring. More gas does not fix the problem. It worsens it. Stability must come first. Remaining restores stability. When you remain, the system recalibrates. Signals become clearer. Intuition sharpens. You begin to sense when action is required and when it is not. This discernment cannot be forced. It emerges only when pressure drops. Pressure distorts timing. Under pressure, you act too early or too late. Aligned action has timing. Timing feels effortless because it is synchronized. This is why, when you stop pushing, things sometimes resolve themselves. Not because you gave up, but because interference ended. Interference is often invisible. Overthinking, second-guessing, micro-adjusting. These consume enormous energy. Remaining removes them. When mental noise quiets, external noise often follows. Conversations simplify, decisions clarify, paths reveal themselves. Not through analysis, but through availability. You are available to what is actually happening. Effort driven by fear blocks this availability. Fear demands certainty. Yes, being does not need certainty. It requires trust in presence. Trust is not belief. It is absence of inner argument. When you stop arguing with yourself, action organizes naturally. This is why many breakthroughs happen after surrender. Not dramatic surrender, quiet surrender. The kind where you stop forcing. This is not weakness. It is intelligence. Intelligence recognizes when effort is no longer useful and knows when to pause. Pausing is not quitting. Pausing is listening. Listening requires stillness. Stillness requires non-reaction. This is the loop. The law of being teaches you to exit the loop of strain, not by opposing effort, but by letting effort arise from alignment. Aligned effort feels almost invisible. You do not feel heroic. You feel steady. Steadiness produces consistency. Consistency outperforms intensity. Always. This is why slow progress often leads to lasting change. Fast progress often collapses. Because it is built on pressure. Pressure demands constant maintenance. Alignment sustains itself. When you remain, you stop feeding urgency. Urgency dissolves. From this state, you move when needed and rest when not. There is no guilt, no inner conflict, just clarity. This is where life begins to cooperate. Not because you demand it, but because you are no longer working against it. In the final part, you will see how this shift changes the way reality responds, how non-reaction creates authority, and why remaining allows life to reorganize itself without force. Remain here. Let effort soften. Let alignment return. There comes a moment when remaining no longer feels intentional. It feels natural. You are not holding yourself still. You are simply not being pulled. This is where something important shifts. Reality begins to respond differently. Not because you changed the world, but because you stopped moving inside it. The law of being expresses itself here. When you no longer react, you no longer signal instability. Instability invites correction. Stability invites cooperation. Most systems respond to the most stable element. This is why calm presence often sets the tone in a room, not through dominance, but through coherence. Coherence is felt immediately. It does not require explanation. Others slow down around it. Conflicts lose momentum. Situations soften without being addressed. This is not coincidence. It is regulation interacting with regulation. When your internal state is steady, external systems adjust. They have to. Instability cannot sustain itself in the presence of coherence. This is why non-reaction feels powerful, not because it controls, but because it does not participate in disorder. Participation fuels patterns. Reaction is participation. When participation ends, patterns weaken. This is how reality reorganizes, not dramatically, not instantly, but consistently. Small shifts accumulate. People respond instead of provoke. Decisions become simpler. Outcomes arrive without being chased. This can feel unsettling at first, because effort was your reference point. Now you move from position. Position does not seek, it waits. Waiting is not passivity. It is readiness without tension. Readiness feels different. It is alert but not anxious, open but not exposed. From readiness, action emerges naturally. You do not debate it. You recognize it. Recognition does not cost energy. Debate does. This is why aligned action does not exhaust. It completes itself. When you act from being, you do not second guess. You do not overcorrect. You move once, and then you stop. This conserves energy. Conservation builds presence. Presence compounds. Over time, this creates authority. Authority is not posture. It is internal consistency. People trust consistency. They relax around it. They follow it without being told. This is why leadership emerges from non-reaction, not from charisma, not from persuasion, but from reliability of state. Your nervous system sets the tempo. Others entrain to it. This is physiological, not psychological. When you remain regulated, you offer a stable reference. And systems seek reference. This is why life begins to meet you, not halfway, but exactly where you stand. Standing still changes everything, because stillness reveals position. Position reveals leverage. Leverage reduces effort. This is the final unfolding of the law of being. You do less, but what you do carries more weight. You speak less, but your words land. You intervene less, but things resolve. Not because you are trying, but because you are not interfering. This is the paradox. Non-reaction creates influence. Remaining creates momentum. Stillness moves reality. At this stage, you stop asking if you are doing it right. The question dissolves. Because there is no strain, no friction, only flow. Flow is not excitement. It is alignment in motion, and alignment feels quiet, unremarkable, but undeniable. This is why the law of being cannot be taught as technique. It must be lived, felt, embodied. You do not become it. You stop leaving it. Remaining is not something you practice. It is what happens when practice ends. And when practice ends, life responds. Not with chaos, but with order. Not with noise, but with clarity. This is the shift. Not dramatic, not sudden, but permanent. Once you stop reacting, you do not go back, because you have felt what it is like to remain whole. And wholeness does not need effort. It needs space. Remain, and let reality find you there.